And this poem, this poem actually is titled as Kalam. कलम जो ना होती तो रिसने लगता लहू दिलों से, लगे होते नश्तर हजार, सूखते ना आंसू आंखों से। कलम जो ना होती तो रिसने लगता लहू दिलों से, लगे होते नश्तर हजार, सूखते ना आंसू आंखों से। निकले हैं जो दर्द स्याही बन कलम से, टूट कर ना इंसान जुड़ा होता जिंदगी से। बिखर कर सपने न बसते फिर दिलों में, हार कर हौसले न फिर पहुंचते बुलंदी पर। कितना कुछ बचाया है कलम ने, रिश्ते, सपने, हौसले, घर और दर्द, वजूद और स्वाद बना रहा जिंदगी से।
Wow.
धन्यवाद।
Very lovely. Wow. And if I may share with all of you, Kiranji, Nishiji was under a tremendous medical condition. She had just recovered, and which is why I usually call whenever she called me, I said, "You're a fighter, and whatever you're doing, please keep doing because we get inspired by whatever you're doing." So fabulous. Good to have you, Nishiji, and what a lovely poem, right? I may not have the taste for poems, but thank you very much. Okay, great.
Thank you.
Yes, so coming back to our guest and Kiranji, so we'll keep this very, very conversational, number one.
Yes.
Right, and I will, for the benefit of all of our guests and in fact our participants, leaders, which is I and Kiranji will get into a conversation, which will be like couple of questions here or there, and then we'll straight dive into your questions and she will answer that, right? I think that will be far better rather than I or she ended up making a monologue for all of you, right? So I hope that will be a conducive format. And having said this, I will begin with a very sort of little. Do you really prioritize things, Kiranji? As in, when you say every year, when you like a 1st of January, we all do our resolutions, right, or priorities. So because I'm just keeping intact the theme of this conversation, we do this every year at IPN. This is in fact a 3rd year of doing the top priorities for school leaders. I did share that link with you, wherein even leaders are really filling in their priorities, right? So my question is as basic as this: when do you also put something in pen paper, or you say no? It's just a change of date. Everything is moving in the same way it was supposed to. What do you do exactly, if you do at all? Make a list or a priority?
I mean, your theme was 10 priorities.
10 priorities.
Leaders. And I have to say, honestly, I don't have 10. I have just the one.
Okay.
And for me, that one has been the reason I started. And the one has been the one that wakes me up every day. The one has been the lighthouse to guide me whenever I'm getting lost. So it's just the one.
Okay.
I find that the clearer the one becomes for me and for our team in the practice, the easier it is then to create your priorities, right? I mean, it's just the one. And the one is very simple. We have
Correct.
to graduate citizens who make the world a better place. Bas, that's it.
Okay.
It isn't rocket science. It isn't, anything complicated. And I think that purpose and that promise by which Riverside started was really such a personal story, the story
Correct.
of a mother. I mean, I saw my son and he was going to a regular fancy school, and I just encountered so personally education system that completely disempowers children and actually sort of rewards compliance. If the bacha is good and quiet, 10 on 10. And I think for me, that just wasn't good enough. I mean, I think we have the tragedy of having 1.6 billion people. That is a tragedy, and it can be such a powerful moment if you look at it in India, right? And 330 million children go to school. And out of that, only 18 million graduate and go to college. And out of that, 70% are not employable skills. So if we were doing such a great job for all these years, we would not be having an Indian principles network, asking priorities, talking about all of this, right?
Okay.
So I think for me, the idea of every child having a purpose that is larger than just having a job, just passing a test, was not something I graduated with. I mean, I went to a regular school in Bangalore. The only thing we did was stay out of trouble, just choreograph your way out of, figuring out who the teacher liked and what the, order was. And I believe my first lucid understanding of learning, not education, not schooling, not studying, was when I walked into the doors of NID. And I remember reading for the first time. I said, oh God, this is what it sounds like. This is what it feels like. This is what it should be every morning. And I think for me, unbeknownst to me, I think the blueprint of Riverside was born then.
Okay.
I wasn't at all ever thinking of starting a school. It was way out of my plan. That's the thing with plans, right? You have all these fancy plans and nothing work out. But when I encountered that with my son, I said, oh my God, there has to be a better way.
Okay.
So I had no rules to follow.
True.
And I think for me, and I say this with humility and with confidence, that we don't even ask the questions. And I think as leaders, we're happy to keep the status quo. We're happy to maintain the status quo. We don't ask the questions. So I think for me, the complete freedom of starting by saying why not, who said, was so driven by and that pretty much is. So it's been there for 22 years of Riverside. We wake up as a team every day with just that one single promise.
Wonderful, fabulous. I think such a, I mean, that's the beauty of you having that clarity. I mean, that's, something, sometimes it is so elusive. I mean, the clarity of purpose that's what I see, at least in today's generation, which is that, okay, too many things to choose from, spoiled for options, right? But so good. This is a great start. So which is why I will then dive. So when you look back, example, or I would say now after 21 years of being at the Riverside.
22.
Okay. 22. We'll make it 21 plus 1. Okay. Fair enough. So I was just, because it came out so passionately in what you said, while you been, I would say, stand out as an institution, maybe, right? Or what you have been able to carve a niche for yourself in the region. But when you look at the larger ecosystem, have you seen any changes coming through in these at least 5 years, if I may say, if not a larger horizon of 22 years? Have you seen any positive changes in this?
I have to say, 22 years ago, when I started Riverside, there was no precedent for something like this.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes.
So it was pretty much building an approach to education ground up.
Correct.
So it was like a homegrown idea. What does it mean? How do values really get translated into process? Otherwise, values are great on a wall.
Yes, exactly.
We have all of these values on a wall, and it never gets put into a daily action. So I think it was such a beautiful journey of iteration, learning, pausing, listening. I think that has been our greatest sort of story over the 22 years. Having said that, I think Riverside, and I believe many other, I'm sure a lot of the schools here are institutions that have influenced the language of education. And the focus is definitely more about moving from a single one-size-fits-all to still, unfortunately, activity learning. Right, and I want to make that distinction there. But having said that, the fact that there's so much more emphasis on getting the body involved in learning was never the norm.
Correct.
Right, I have to say that definitely has moved. obviously the NEP has just kind of validated that process and said, yeah, that kind of makes common sense, which was really our work 22 years ago. So, so there's just, I believe, I mean, I have a lot of optimism going forward. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot more to look forward to, and
lot more to be done, lot more to be looked forward to. But you're saying the NEP is in the right direction. It really, in a way, validates a lot of things which you guys were doing. Okay?
It validates the fact that the heart must drive the mind.
Correct. Yeah.
That validates.
Well said. And now, just a very sort of a fun, basic question, which is that since you said you were a reluctant founder, I would say, right? That's the right word to maybe describe this.
No, I would say I'm an accidental educationist.
Accidental educationist. Okay. Well, so were you really ever got tempted to take the Riverside journey more than to one place, example? Because I think you've just kept one Riverside in Ahmedabad, I believe so, right? Were you never tempted to really take this mission a little more further? Because I'm sure people would have benefited, and etc., etc. Like-minded people would have joined hands with you, etc., etc. So what, was it never occurred to you, or never, I mean, came to your mind? I mean, if that's the question I can ask you.
You know, I have to say, scale is not always numbers. Okay, scale is also excellence. And I mean, there's one Harvard, there's a one NID, there's a one Stanford, right? And scale being was one very clear agenda. I didn't want to be the best school in the world. I wanted to be the best school for the world. So as Riverside, our responsibility in education has not been for the 440 that come to us. It has been absolutely our responsibility to be sort of, you know, resonance of change. So Design for Change is in 2 million, in 65 countries.
Yes.
The same governing principle that has shaped everything that we've done at Riverside, which is basically bringing the feel, imagine, do, share framework, is today reaching 2.2 million children.
Yeah.
So that is scale. Secondly, codification of the processes has meant more schools can participate in what we're calling now IPN schools. So I want to make sure that Riverside continues to be the lab. You have to have a nimble place.
Correct.
You can't do education built on tradition. It must serve the user now.
Correct.
And I think if you don't have a lab that's constantly iterating and prototyping and then codifying, that's the responsibility. You must codify to serve the larger good, right? So I would like to believe that Riverside has done the primary work in that space.
Okay.
We're at a lovely kind of trajectory of our growth to say we're taking this far larger than just the schools. So started with my one son saying I can't. Today I think 2.5 million children are saying I can. So
I can. Yes. Correct. Absolutely well said. I think so. Basically, Riverside becomes the oasis, and then everything else is from there on built on. So tell us more about the Design for Change initiative of yours, because I think that came through what you said in the last. Can you give us the journey of Design for Change, when it started?
Yeah.
Obviously, we now know it is really, really making the impact, but what were those initial years for you, and how did it really occur that you wanted to do a Design for Change at a larger canvas?
I did. I had no plans.
Okay.
I'm not a fan of 5-year plans. I've never been. I think plans are extremely limiting because you have no idea when you'll be able to achieve those, right? So I think for me, I've never been one of plans. But it just so happened that in 2009, a very dear friend of mine, Venkat Krishnan, I don't know how many of you might know of him, he's the one who founded Give India, right? And at that time, he had this maverick idea of having a festival of giving. Just so basically, how can India as a nation give more. And I don't know how many of you are familiar with the Joy of Giving Week that now is called Dan Utsav.
Okay.
Right? It was started as a Joy of Giving Week. We were kind of like the cohort of people who kind of thought it through. But Venkat was really the driving force. And he called me up one day, very super excited, and said, Kiran, we're doing this. And, corporates, people are giving, and the NGOs are giving. And he was talking to me so much about the adults giving. And I said, boss, we have to start with children. Children have to understand what the generosity of the heart is and what it looks like. So he kind of just threw the challenge. He said, "Tu kar." I said, "To main karu." It pretty much became an opportunity to take the same fundamental belief that Riverside was working on in providing this agency for children, but made it into a framework.
Okay.
So in
Okay.
June of 2009, we rolled it out, literally getting the best minds, NID, Stanford, IDEO. We got them all together, created this framework, created the toolkit, reached 30,000 schools in India that year. And I'm talking about every school. I'm talking about the little schools in Dimapur and then in Junjunu. It became such an inclusive idea because we created it as a language agnostic and school agnostic, sort of age agnostic idea. And the first story, Gaurav, came from Dimapur. And we started crying. We said, "Oh my God, the children there making
Absolutely.
the world a better place." We've never seen our children.
Correct.
We'd always had this competitive idea that, general knowledge quiz and who's smarter than the fifth grader, but we never looked at our children making the world a better place. So for me, that was the highlight. But I tell you, and I have to say this, and I say this with, again, awareness that had it not been for the TED Talk, I doubt it would have done what it did. So I spoke on TED that year.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Okay.
TED just took it to another.
Okay. It
another
just
orbit.
spiraled out from there on. Okay.
Because suddenly there were entrepreneurs looking for the idea, not educators. Big difference. I have to say, with insight, I don't think education is a very abundant space. We're kind of close. So if an idea came from another school, we're reluctant to take it. Yeah,
Correct.
So I have to say that I'm so grateful that the TED opportunity came. It went into the hands and the hearts of young entrepreneurs. My God, it was mad.
Correct.
And today just has become the biggest movement of change. It started here.
Correct.
Gandhiji's
Absolutely, yes. And the year 2009, right? That
2009. So we're now going to be in our 14th year. And
fabulous. And as you mentioned, that very year it went to 30,000 schools in India.
Yes.
And now obviously 2.5 million kids across 65 or 75 countries, right? That's what is fabulous. Because as we speak, there's a question which has already come in the chat window, but I'll take that up in the little later half of this conversation, right? While I always ask this question to all my guests, that I know today, right now, you look so invincible, you look so positive, right? At the end of the day, what sometimes or what makes sometimes, for example, Miss Kiran also having a bad day, how she lifts herself up, example, or if she has a bad day going, what she does, example.
Have French fries, see Govinda movies. No.
Okay, fabulous.
Of course, there are those. But, I think all of us require, I keep talking about role models as a very important way to keep you on track. And if you ever come to Riverside, you'll find that there are cutouts of Gandhiji, actually, a couple of places here. And I sometimes have to just go and stand in front of him and say, "Oh my God, I'm so tired." And I have to look him in the eye and say, "I'm going to meet you one day and I cannot be tired."
Okay.
So the one thing I've learned is stamina. Leaders have to have stamina, boss. Talent is all on one side. You have to have stamina.
Correct.
And if you don't have stamina, all the talent in the world is not going to move the needle.
Correct.
So for me, stamina, continue to keep a sense of humor, be totally shameless.
That's a must-have. Yes, absolutely. And what you said at the last, that I've seen that way, that you do not think what is the other person thinking, just speak your heart out. Absolutely important. Wonderful. While I can ask few questions, but if at this point in time, any one of you have any question, let's have a virtual show of hand. I'll help you unmute and you can ask your question. Okay? And at the same time, I will also give you how we do that, which is raise your hand virtually, and then we can help you unmute, and then you can ask the question. Okay, because I'm also taking sort of a breather in terms of what can I really ask, because the priorities have gone to 1 from the 10, right?
Yeah, one.
From a 10 digit, it became 1. Fabulous. So, okay. So can I just ask you one quick question, which is then I think people will warm up to this entire idea. I think Padmavati ji have a question. Padmavati ji, over to you.
Yes.
Please go ahead.
Hi, Kiran.
Hi, Jean.
Uh, my first question is, how are you connected to Singapore? Because I work there in Singapore. I just thought I should connect that.
Oh, lovely. I'm not connected, but I have a lovely design for change partner in Singapore, Madhu Verma. So
Oh,
if you are there, I shall be delighted to connect you.
no, right now I'm at Hyderabad, but
Okay.
I was working there. Oh, thought just to get the introduction from you. Okay. Now my next question is normally we are supposed to have 3 priorities instead of 10, say, like how Gaurav was making a mention. Is your one priority connected, and did you decode them as 3 priorities, or did you decode your one big priority into many steps, or how do you work on that one goal?
I love that question. Essentially, if it's like if I give you the metaphor of a lighthouse, right? There's a shining thing, and you're constantly working, going towards that. So the steps to reach the journey and the lighthouse are really the actionable points you take. But I mean, the more you clutter your plate to have 10 other things, the less likely you'll do any one of them very well. Right? That's really what we have learned. So I think the idea of making sure that we'd never move away from that promise means that everything that we have to do, what will our curriculum look like? What will our timetable look like? What will our professional development look like? What will our parent partnership look like? All of those have to further that journey, right? And have to go towards that. So a lot of the work we've done over the 22 years is create a systems approach of how all stakeholders are involved, understand that that's the promise. So we've done a lot of work in making it visible. We have the timetabling exercise. Oh my God, our timetable, Padmavati ji, is like a work of art. It is delicious. I mean, it finally comes down to the timetable. It doesn't matter what grand plans you have. If it doesn't appear in the timetable, it is not happening. Let's be very clear. So I think what we've done, a lot of work has been done on just really putting that wonderful artifact together to say, how does every day help us move towards that goal? So that's really
Yeah.
the work we do.
In continuation with this question, I have one more thing to ask. Personally, we got to have reading time, we got to have thinking time, we got to have art time, like art in excellence of our work. We should be artful in our work and things like that. Then how do you manage that in the priority list?
I don't see them as separate ideas, frankly. Artistic work, work of excellence, it doesn't really matter. I think what I learned, especially with my son's experience, was that we have put this tiny little pieces that don't join and make a single picture. It's like the jigsaw puzzle. Just think about all the pieces. The problem with most education is we throw these pieces onto the table, and it's so far apart, we don't know how they fit. And the beauty with putting those pieces together and making that one picture is really at the heart of the exercise of why and what we should be doing. So a lot of things we did away with, a lot of things we added. So we still work the same number of days, like all schools, same number of hours. It's just that what we've done is chosen what to do in those hours. So that's really choices.
So that's what my issue, or in fact, my problem.
Wait, Mami, let me just put you in gallery because I can't see anybody.
Oh, is it? I'm there, my video is on. I'm here.
There. Where are you? I can see you.
Here.
Okay.
You have to move. You have to scroll maybe the video or put on the view.
There you are. I found you. Found you.
So I have an issue with my self-control of, say, like I start reading, I read a lot of time. So somewhere I should break it, right? I should see that I put capsules of time. That's what I thought, that you would come into that equation, what I was talking to you about. Like I go do my timetable, say, I keep doing it a little longer until I realize that I'm done. It shouldn't be like that. I know that it shouldn't be like that, but how it should be, I'm just wondering about that idea.
You come here, I'll show you. Come and have coffee with Kiran.
Sure, why not?
Chalo. Rakesh ji, your question. Then we'll go to Shashikala ji. Then Torul will come to you and Ganesh. Yeah. Rakesh ji, you'll have to unmute and please ask your question.
Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening. My God, why can't I see these people?
Hold on.
Good
Come
evening.
into that sort of.
Is it better now? I've removed you from the spotlight, so you'll have to put this on a gallery at your end now.
On gallery, and if
Yeah.
Rakesh ji can just kind of put his hand up, or who's speaking?
Yeah, he is virtually putting his hand up. In
Lovely.
fact, if you
Rakesh ji, your photo is not there, but
Okay.
Hanji, batao.
Ma'am, beautiful background color.
Chalo, Hash Bhagwan, that is at least good.
And super painting over that. Explaining your personality. My question is, you just mentioned stamina, the word stamina. My question is, how to develop stamina among children?
Are Rakesh ji, first we have to develop stamina in ourselves. Children will be all. I'll tell you one very interesting thing that I heard and then I learned. Children might not listen to you, but they will always imitate you. So Rakesh ji, if you want to have children to have stamina, we have to show that every day. So 22 years, the stamina has come only out of deep curiosity. I still don't know anything of this place. And for me, that deep curiosity and understanding, oh my God, wakes me up every single day. And so, oh my God, what will I learn today? So I believe that if we were to role model this for our children, make it very visible and do it not every Thursday and once in a year, but every single day, it's likely that they will see this. Then you'll have the moral authority to tell them, boss, what is this nonsense? I'm tired. Right? The problem is that we don't lead from moral authority. We lead from positional authority. Principal ka cabin ho gaya to hum karenge. But no, I've learned that agar apan we can role model the kind of things that we would like to build in our children. We can only give what we have. So I have, and I keep saying contagious is a good word, right? The idea is to be contagious. So Rakesh ji, you join me for morning walks. We'll build stamina.
No, every day I do 8 kilometer morning walks.
Very good. I think you're on the right track.
And my workings are 17 to 18 hours per day.
Very good, Ji. Too good.
One more thing I would like to ask, ma'am. Day before yesterday, I was talking to my son who is studying at Vellore, VIT Vellore, Tamil Nadu. He said he is in computer sciences core. He said the curriculum of his university is 30 years old. It's obsolete nowadays, right? What you understand about the curriculum of Indian schools and Singapore schools? How Singapore schools are better than Indian schools, and how can we bring down this in Singapore curriculums into our classrooms?
Absolutely not. I will never recommend that. Finally, Singapore, by the way, the entire population of Singapore is my backyard, sitting here. India this size, I will also do the same thing. Please, Singapore school is not an emulation of this thing. You take that size, you take the homogeneity, anything is possible. I think what we have, the diversity that we have is just outstanding. I think what we've not done is challenge and figure out what we want to do in school every single day. So Rakesh ji, just the way you're doing 8 kilometers and 17 hours, I would say just put that same energy into figuring out what children should do every single day, and magic happens.
Well, ma'am, what I realize as I lives at Gurgaon, and every day I meet a lot of people coming here from different localities, different cultures, and different educational backgrounds, working in different multinational companies. the companies working at US, UK, or other European countries in the East Asia Asian countries, the creativity, the word creativity, I really feel very uncomfortable when I find that our school children are not that creative. As the children study from US or UK or something, France or something, Singapore, like these countries. So it really bothers me. So what we do?
Rakesh ji, I wish you could come here. I could meet you and tell you there's nothing.
I'm just talking to you the practical problem I really face with the youngsters in Gurgaon, because Gurgaon has a very young crowd. Right from 22 years to 40 years, 45 years, people working with the corporate sectors. And I really see the 24-year boy working with some multinational companies, lot of stress. When I ask him ki what happened, he says ki "Bare bhai sahab, bahut kaam hai, bahut work pressure hai, creativity nahi hai, company कहती है कि रोज नई चीज लाओ, रोज चीज नहीं लाओ, डिजिटल मार्केटिंग में लोग हैं, रोज नई चीज लेके आइए, स्टार्टअप्स में लोग हैं, आपने ये काम ऐसे नहीं किया, देखिए हम लोग पीछे रह गए." तो ये सब चीजें स्कूल्स में कैसे हम इम्प्रूव करें कि क्रिएटिविटी इम्प्रूव हो बच्चों की? गौरव भाई शायद मेरी बात से एग्री नहीं करेंगे।
नहीं, मैं बिल्कुल एग्री कर रहा हूँ आपकी बात से। मैं इनफैक्ट
गौरव भाई भी गुड़गांव में रहते हैं और कॉर्पोरेट्स के बीच में रहते हैं, यंग कॉर्पोरेट्स के बीच में।
गौरव भाई ही सब प्रॉब्लम का प्रॉब्लम है। हाँ माँ, सब पता चला।
मैं उसका सोल्यूशन देने वाला था कि
हाँ
हम
जी,
सब लोग, राकेश भाई, हम लोग सब लोग चल रहे हैं रिवरसाइड अहमदाबाद, ठीक है? और वहां पे एक, बिल्कुल सही बोला कि नहीं बोला, राइट? अभी के लिए
बिल्कुल सही,
मतलब संक्षेप में मैंने अपना उत्तर दे दिया आपको। अब हम लोग प्लान कर रहे हैं मार्च या अप्रैल में, जब बोर्ड एग्जामिनेशन खत्म हो जाएंगे, वी ऑल विल कम टू किरणजी's हॉस्पिटैलिटी में, हम लोग बैठ जाएंगे वहां पे जाके। अब आप क्रिएटिविटी हमको सिखाइए,
खा के क्रिएटिव बनेंगे। चलो राकेश जी, चिंता मत करें आप।
डन। चलिए शशिकला जी, योर क्वेश्चन।
मैंने किरण जी आपसे प्रश्न इसलिए पूछा कि आपके पीछे जो पेंटिंग लगी हुई है, आपके पीछे जो पेंटिंग लगी हुई है,
हाँ जी,
बहुत कुछ एक्सप्लेन करती है। मैं अभी पब्लिकली तो उसको नहीं बता पाऊंगा। आपकी कलरफुल पर्सनैलिटी को एक्सप्लेन करती है वो।
सर जी, ये मेरे बेटे ने करवाए, मैंने बेटे ने किया।
तो आपने अपने पीछे है ना, तो बेटे ने किया है, तो भी क्या वो आपको अच्छी लगी है तभी तो लगाई है।
बिल्कुल।
चलिए राकेश भाई, बाकी क्वेश्चंस भी हैं, 7-8 लोगों के क्वेश्चंस आ गए।
थैंक यू सो मच।
हाँ चलिए, शशिकला जी, योर क्वेश्चन।
Good evening, everyone. I'm Shashi Yadav, working as a principal in Surat, one of the famous school and crowded school. The strength of my campus is it has more than 7,500 students, and I'm leading with 2,500 students. So my question is, like as Rakesh sir asked earlier, yes, creativity. I think that it depends on the leader how they deal with and how the planning is to be done. Yeah, in our education system, we are mainly focused on learning the things, mugging up the things, and at the end of the year, we are evaluating the students by the memory they are having in 3 hours, whatever they are writing. So we need to focus on this skill-based education that NEP is gonna talking about, and definitely in coming 2-3 years, the things will be implemented. So my question is like what I am facing nowadays. For the past 2 years, I have seen maximum students after 12, they are going to abroad. Because I'm signing so many LORs and I'm preparing so many things, because every third student, second students come up. So I'm going to Canada, I'm going to US for studies, and they want a PR over there.
and how it can be stopped, because previously, before few days, I met a scientist, and he's working as a principal in one of the school in Surat. He said, yes, every day, sitting on the coffee, and we are talking about, yeah, India is not doing well. If we are, bringing, or from morning to evening, we are using the things of foreign countries, and then at the end of the day, we are talking about the GDP and why rupees has goes down. So how these values can be inculcated in a student, so that this change that is actually, it has been increased. I'm in education system since 18 years. So but for the past 5 years, I have seen this ratio is increasing. So how it can be stopped, and how those students can be guided up? Yes, because earning here in Spain, spending in other countries, so it is how we can guide those students so that they can make better future over here. It's not about that creativity. Indian people are very creative, and they are doing, and we can see the examples in our surroundings as well. So that is the utmost thing that make me thinking every time, why these students or parents are not looking for the opportunities in our country. Thank you.
कैसे रोकें क्वेश्चन ये था, हाउ डू
Yeah.
वी स्टॉप दिस?
Not stop, stopping something is not in our hand. I think these things can be minimized, and by some
मतलब आपकी बात को अगर मैं बोलूं शशिकला जी, आप ये बोल रही हैं कि हाउ कैन वी क्रिएटिवली एंगेज देम बैक इन हियर इन द होम कंट्री, राइट? दैट्स व्हाट यू आर सेइंग. चलिए,
correct.
किरण जी, इफ यू हैव अ आंसर टू दिस.
I think forget what you're trying to stop or start. I think the focus should be, can children find their purpose and passion? That where it finally finds its manifestation is not your responsibility, but we don't even work on getting our children to find their passion. So I think one of the key things we've learned, at least at Riverside, is can we get our children to be brave enough to make that passion a profession? Half the time in India, the value proposition society puts is, if it's not engineering and mathematics or science, it's not a value. So where will our children go? Where is that opportunity? You're not worth it. That's the worry. It's not the where will they go? Why should they stay here then? And that's the today, this morning, I met a candidate who came and she said, engineering ka koi fayda hi nahi hai. Degree kiya hai, I am getting a job as a watchman. So what is this? What is this huge amount of seduction this engineering and mathematics has done? We don't listen to our children. We don't understand their passions. We don't give them the confidence that to take that passion, make it a profession. Then we're wondering why they go away. Why should they stay? That's the question to ask. So I think the whole approach is incorrect. The whole approach is flawed. If we get our children, in fact, at Riverside, even though we're the Cambridge board, at least 60-70% of our children study in India. They love the opportunities they open up. They're strong enough to take those out there. There are wonderful colleges that are now coming up. So I think our communication through the many years that they're with us is to constantly tell them, be brave, be strong, be courageous. Take your passion and make sure you make something good with it. Not kaun sa job karoge, kyun aap ye kar rahe ho. I think the communication over the years they have with us is something that we have to do a better job with. Simultaneously letting parents have the confidence that no, your child matters. We don't listen to our children at all. Child is saying, I love, say, I don't know, ornithology, or I want to be an astronomer. We say, nahi, aapko ye karna hai. We're not even listening, right? So maybe we have to do a better job rather than stopping anybody. You're not going to stop anybody. Let's forget that. Koi rukne wala nahi hai. You just have to make a better job in making sure they go out there and make the world a better place. Simple. Like I said, Gaurav, one promise, one focus, everything.
Yes. No, you're living up to that. Absolutely. Torul Shah, your question, please. Yeah.
Yeah, good evening, Kiran ji and Gaurav ji. Lovely to be part of this and listen to you. Just my question is very crisp. As I was reading Jiddu Krishnamurthy's book the other day, he believes that learning happens when you are at leisure. So I would like to know your point of view. According to you, when does the learning happen best at Riverside? And what does happiness mean to you? And how do you bring about happiness in your school?
Good questions.
How?
I'll answer the second one first. I'm not a fan of happiness. I think I'm a fan of joy. Joy is a far deeper value proposition than happiness. For me, happiness is a very transacted idea. Oh, you give me ice cream, I'm happy now. If you don't give me ice cream, not happy. So happiness comes from a very different sort of transaction. For me, joy is deeply meaningful and purposeful. It's not often happy, but joy comes, like if you look at parenting, I'd rather go for a spa treatment, I'll be happier there. But purpose of bringing up children is deeply joyful. And it comes from a deep pit in your stomach, that it bothers you, it awakens you, it manifests in courage. Joy comes from that, right? So for me, joy is something we don't talk enough in education also. We don't talk about joy. We don't understand that as an ingredient for children to learn. So when you talk about learning at Riverside, I think our principles are quite simple. It just comes from first, which we call the 5 R's. Like when I think somebody mentioned the 3 R's, reading, writing, and arithmetic used to be the old guard, right? But now if you look at relevance, the whole idea of purpose, relationships, deep, authentic relationship with everybody in the community, not just with your children. I find that, children are always learning what you're not teaching them. If there are teachers and they're out in the corridor and they're gossiping about another colleague, you can't go and tell a child, now be kind, right? They're listening, they're watching all of us, right? So that's really important about relationships. Rigor, meaningful rigor. Reflection, we don't do reflection enough. So everything then stays in activity. But if you don't reflect on what you've done, there's less likely you're going to file it into your mind. And then finally, you repeat all of this every day. The repetition. If you do these, those are the ingredients for us at Riverside that make conditions conducive for learning. And then, like I said, joy, joy, joy. Hug a lot. Make sure.
I think that's a good formula you've given us of the 4 R's leading to joy. Thank you.
Not at all. Thank you so much.
Ganesh Tarit, Ganeshi, your question? Yeah.
Hello, good evening, Gauraji.
Good evening. Please.
Good evening, Kiran ma'am.
Good evening, Ganesh.
Ma'am, this is Ganesh, the principal MGM Clodel School. Recently, ma'am had been there with us as an eminent speaker in LEF 2022.
Yes.
Aurangabad. It's so good to see you, ma'am.
Lovely to see you, Ganesh.
Hi. Well, my question, actually, I couldn't ask it there because I was busy in other things. That how at Riverside, what are the ways and tactics that you follow for effective parent partnership? Yeah. So because see, in threefold ways, the school, student, and parents. It is first to convince the parents if you are carrying out any innovative practices, because parents still believe in the rat race. They still want the child to get max marks in everything, and that they want the child to be champ in all sectors. So, and we know very well that every child is not similar. Every child has his or her own unique quality. Every child cannot be, checked with the yardsticks of academics. So what kind of innovative practices that you have at Riverside for effective parent partnership? That's my question.
Thank you, Ganesh. And please say hi to Apu when you meet her.
Yeah, of course. Ma'am, she's watching you right now.
Oh, she is? Well,
Yeah,
hi.
Namrata is there.
Wherever you are.
Yeah.
Right. So for parent partnership, I think this was something we learned over the years, just how do you, it started first by saying, how do you get parents to become partners, right? The whole idea of a parent partnership is that, because most schools, I remember the school my son went through, there was so much of parental pressure, so either there was this us and them, either schools will keep parents away or they'll succumb to the pressure. Oh, parent bol raha hai zyada homework, parent bol raha hai sada ye karo, and then we succumb to the pressure, and the parent becomes our stakeholder, not the child. We forget the child then. Then we're
Yes.
constantly teasing the parent to say, "Bichara parent has to be pleased." So I think at Riverside, we grew into understanding that idea of getting parents to understand why we're doing what we're doing. Then they're more likely to partner with us on the how, right? Most often we don't explain the rationale of what we do to our parents. We say, from tomorrow, timing will be this. Tomorrow, come and meet me here. Now it is, open house or whatever those ideas are. So I think in many ways, we learned that if we really communicate with parents on the purpose of each of our practices, they're more likely to say, okay, I don't really understand it, but I will trust you. I kid you not. I still think our parents don't quite know what our pedagogy is, but the trust is immense because they see it in their children.
Okay.
And one of the things we do, and I know this is fairly controversial, but before we get in any parents, we say, boss, last time you choose, huh? Becoming a parent of Riverside is uncomfortable. You'll be expected to many things. There are many other schools there. Please go. But if you become a partner here, then you must make this journey together. We must do a jadoo ki jhappi and make this work. So I think for us, that has been our continuous iteration. Having said that, I have to say that every year we revisit it. I have a terrific school leader who's constantly meeting the parents and saying, are things working? Do we have to rehash it? So it's a lot of work. It's a continuous iteration. But when done well, and I have to say the endorsement came back during COVID, when every other school was struggling with
that was a tough time
the
indeed.
fees, etc. We just reached out and not a single parent pushed back. They said, just do what you have to do. We have your back. And I kid you not, we all started crying. We said, thank you. But it didn't come easy. It came from those 20 years of investment.
Yes.
Right? That they were able to return to us with that much of faith. And when we started school, Ganesh, I am telling you this, we were the only school possibly in the world who had 100% children come back.
Wow.
100%.
Fantastic. Lovely. Claps.
Yeah. It just gave us just so much of gratitude to say thank you for trusting us. Yeah.
No, that calls us for rewards for whatever we have given to the students. And that it matters. So dealing with emotions, not only with students, but with parents also equally is important.
Yeah.
Is what I believe.
You can't do it without them. Absolutely right.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much, Kiran ma'am.
Sangeeta Upalji, your question.
Good evening, ma'am. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, Sangeeta ji, go ahead. We can hear you.
Okay. Yep. Hello, Kiran ma'am. First of all, I'm a big fan of yours. I could not, miss this opportunity to talk to you. When I became a principal many, many years ago, I would follow you ardently, because you had started Riverside and it impressed me so much that I would say, oh, how can there be a school so different from the others? And thank you, ma'am. And this is an opportunity to talk to you. First of all, Design for Change. And I'll tell you, I come from the cleanest city of India, Indore.
Indore.
And I am the principal of the Millennium School, Indore. Right, ma'am. So, ma'am, Design for Change, of course. Yes, Millennium children have participated across India. What a wonderful opportunity. Ma'am, my question is, when you have, you are very passionate and you would need a very passionate team. You talked of stamina and, bringing about a change. So finding those, putting those jigsaw puzzles together must not have been easy. It's difficult, when you have so much of expectations and sometimes, your team is not up to that mark, or maybe some members are not up to the mark. So what do you do, ma'am? How do you motivate the ones, or you simply, I remember going to an IM course and they said, drop them off the bus.
Oh, no.
But, I never feel that's the right way to go. So I'm asking you, ma'am, there must be, in all schools, like principals, we must be facing this challenge, because you could be motivated. You could have a lot of stamina. You could run 4 staircases up and down, but your teachers would want to use the lift only, or want to do things otherwise. So how do you do that transformation? I wanted to know, the jadoo ki jappi or the magic wand, ma'am?
Thank you for the question. I think very early as a team, we learned that people join you as they are, but it's your responsibility to take them where you want to be, right? You're not going to get, oh my God, it's a rare that you're going to get people as they are, right? They would have done their B.Ed, etc. But what is your responsibility as a school to bring them into your culture? That's where I don't think we do a very good job, most schools, right? If you look at your academic year, you might be working 200 days in the year, right? And then you'll set aside how much time for your personal professional development. That'll be maybe 10 days. And then in that, typically you're correcting report cards or you're doing some random workshop, etc. Therein lies the caveat. So at Riverside, we work formally 250 odd days more. So we have got 50 days more of personal professional development, because if we don't have the time to think, talk, and engage, it's less likely we're going to be ready for our kids. Having said that, I also believe a lot of our hi, how you're doing. It starts with celebrating each other loudly and continuously. That is mandatory. But we don't put aside time. We think one appraisal at the end of the year and then all of that kind of works. It isn't so. All of us, just like Achinda, like when I saw my son, whose teacher didn't even know his name, that's pretty much what adults are going through in most schools. We don't talk to each other. We do our work in silos. We don't celebrate the practice. We don't encourage people to come and get inspired by us. So we create a culture of I don't know, parallel play, if nothing else. So I think what we did very intentionally, and as a design thinking practitioner, as my team, we really made sure, again, I'm coming back to that glorious timetable. We put that together so that we make our time to meet, to greet, to go for a Govinda movie, to basically make sure we do deep thinking and challenges and iteration. And this has been relentless. So, and I think that's where our greatest work comes. I think as all the leaders here, it isn't somebody else's responsibility. You can't outsource this, right? Yes. And so I would encourage you all to do that one thing, and I will encourage all of you to do this one thing itself. We don't have a principal's cabin at Riverside. Okay, we don't have an office. We don't have a staff room. We just removed all of those barriers that come in between people. I would encourage you to just take your desk and sit out in the corridor. Do it for a week. And you will see conversations happen. You will see stories that will emerge. You will see your school in a fresh light. They will see you. But we're reluctant to get out of that room. And then we say teachers must become better, right? So one of the things we did quite naturally was to remove those barriers. I've seen a lot of schools, I'll walk in and the principal will be telling me, I want them to think that I am their friend. And the moment they walk into place, everybody stands up. It's these little practices that come in the way of really engaging. So I'm telling my team 100 times, I say, when I walk in, please stand up. They say, oh, plus just, but what I'm saying is that hierarchy doesn't make it matter. Moral authority, right? So it's just things like that. So reimagining our personal professional calendar, making sure we put the time for it, making sure we reach out and hold each other's hands. I'm telling you, through COVID, Sangeeta, it was remarkable what happened. There was just so much grief. There was so much loss. People were losing people and families and jobs. And we all just made sure this one thing. We said at the end of this, whatever this moment is going to be, we're going to look back and say, we held our heads high and we held each other's hands and walked through that. And we have made that promise for ourselves.
Yes.
Right? Everything else is matter. Because we say, if we can walk across this and hold each other's hands and make sure that the hearts are healed by the time we reach, that's a good story. That's a good story. So it's stuff like that. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I think I got that belief in me now, because I've been walking to everybody's, I don't want the teachers to come to me. So I am on the right path when I get it from you. Thank you so much.
Totally.
Thank you.
Wonderful,
Thank you.
wonderful. Thank you. Induji, before I come to you, there's actually, I think, something which I need to quickly read, which is I, with my 35 school teachers, have been to Riverside and it has been a mesmerizing experience. The best part was Konglom at Riverside and coffee with Rickshawala. So we
Who's
have
this?
to. This is Nihali, I believe. Nihali, is if you're here. Yeah.
Yes, I am here. Yeah.
Wonderful. Yes.
Thank you.
Hello.
Okay, we have like 3 minutes left, Gaurav.
Yep,
Yep.
absolutely.
No,
Yes.
before, I think I would take this opportunity. Good evening, Mr. Gaurav.
Good evening,
And good
Induji.
evening, Kiranji. I am very curious to know your day's timetable. Just one day's timetable, if you could just share with us some components of your glorious timetable. I'm stuck up there only. You started in the
Delicious.
beginning and then you were about, when you were about to conclude there again, you mentioned like we start our day with hobbies, project work, children spread all over the floor doing the work. So I just want to know that will be
Yeah.
help because coming to Riverdale, Ahmedabad would take some days. I don't want to waste the
Riverside,
day.
Riverside. You know what? I would also like you to do one thing, and I don't know whether I'm just putting it anyway in the chat here. So I would like for you to. It's called Riverside Learning Center. .in. What I would encourage you to just go through this, and if you go on to something called the IPN platform and you scroll down, you will see our timetable, right? It's like a mandala, right? Most timetables are ribbon models, right? We have subjects which we timetable for, and pretty much we say between one subject to the other. I think one of the key principles of reimagining timetable was timetabling for relevance, rigor, relationships, and reflection. So we completely flipped it and said, how do we make sure that every day has an opportunity for relationship building, for relevance in the learning, for purposeful rigor and deep reflective practice? Everything then followed into these principles, right? We're still doing mathematical thinking. We're still doing projects learning. We're doing all of that. But just making sure that on a daily, and that's what you asked me, what does a single day look like? I'll ask you to anyway look at that mandala, but those are the primary lens by which we design the timetable. And then you will see the mandala expand, like a flower out, and you'll see what happens weekly and monthly and annually for the student, the teacher, and the parents. We've done the 3 pillars right now, but that's really at the heart of the timetable exercise.
Right. Thank you.
Last question, Gaurava.
Yep. Who is it? Dr. Namrata Jaju, your question.
Who's?
Dr. Namrata Jaju.
Oh,
Namrata ma'am.
Hi.
Asya.
So, Kiran, this is a quick one from the Aurangabad gang.
Yes.
And so you spoke about helping children find their passion, right? And as a school, can you maybe share a couple of examples that what can we do where we can help children to actually find their passion?
First, listen. Listen, listen, listen. A very, very important skill that we don't exercise much. Hi, Aparna. So yes, so I think the biggest thing that we have learned, at least over the years, is the act of listening. And then once you listen and there is that idea that there is that seed that you notice, then you give opportunities, right? You open up the opportunities. That's the other thing. Then there'll be a lot of resistance from parents. So you do the counseling with parents. I've had many times a parent saying, no, but chemistry to karna hi na, plan B to karna hi nahi. And we have to say, koi plan B nahi hota. If you don't commit to a plan A, you're never going to, if you always have a plan B, you'll never do a plan A. So how do you make sure you counsel the parents? So there's just so many multiple things, but it starts first by noticing and listening. So I think for me, though, and the team at Riverside, that's been our go-to strategy by which we work with our kids. And then you saw we had our first reunion. We've got 5 PhDs, we've got architects, we've got dancers, we've got designers, we've got entrepreneurs. Thankfully, 25 managers didn't walk out of Riverside. 25 engineers didn't walk out of Riverside. What a tragedy that would be, right? What a tragedy that would be. So I think the idea that our children have their stories and they continue to take it out into the world and make it a little gentler and more humane, that's a terrific story to have.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. Completely out of time. And having said this, I think
Can I
1 hour
just
is.
sum up? Can I just sum up? Looking at ma'am's energy and stamina, I have 4 lines for her. हो छाया हो कितना भी सघन अंधेरा, विपत्तियों ने डाला हो चहूं और डेरा, हौसले इसके कभी नहीं टूटेंगे, जिंदगी जिद है, जीवन अंकुर फूटेंगे.
Oh, I love that.
Well said.
Tremendous. I'm very, very impressed by you, ma'am.
Wonderful. So
Thank
having
Sir,
said
my
this,
question remains unanswered.
Hanji?
Lekhraj
I'm
ji,
there. I want to ask
yes,
something.
yes, but 6 बजे
Last
का
part,
टाइम
then
बोला
Lekhraj
हुआ.
Thakur.
हाँ, लेखराज जी सबसे
I'm very
सबको.
sorry to interrupt you, sir.
हाँ, कोई बात नहीं. क्वेश्चन पूछ लीजिए. I think, but I have to take that permission from Kiran ji. एक क्वेश्चन है. Should we take this up or what do you say?
Yeah, last one. We can
हाँ,
definitely
चलिए
take this.
जल्दी से.
I'm very sorry कि मैं थोड़ा सा last में join up हुआ because of my engagements. मेरी duty थी आज CBSE की, as you know, observer की. The moment I got free, I just joined you, and it was wonderful to listen to you all. My simple question is that how to control this social anger among students? कि बात में बोलते भाई हमारी self-respect है, whatever it is, and बाद में they are the future citizen of our country. बात फिर possession निकालते हैं, बसें फोड़ते हैं. How to control this social anger? Simple thing is that मेरा जो top 10 priorities as a principal, as a school leader, उसमें भी यही है कि I just want to make my school as a anger free.
Yes.
Simple,
Now we have a whole new generation, Mr.
बड़ी जल्दी, to be frank and honest, they got hurt so quickly कि मुझे ऐसे कैसे बोल दिया sir, ऐसे कैसे बोल दिया. So just simple things, because you are as a learned educationist, I just want to know some tips from you how to control this social anger among the students.
Well, I can't
That's
maybe
all.
possibly comment on the social anger, but I definitely can comment on the fact that yes, children have a whole new idea of sensitivity and we must address that. What we do at Riverside, I can't say it for everybody else, but what we do at Riverside, sir, is never start a process without inviting them into the table. So we are always creating like, for instance, what is a code of conduct for a school, right? What are the kind of behaviors that are acceptable or not? We don't decide that. We've done this whole exercise with the children, with alumni, with parents, with teachers. And when they collaborate on creating a space that their voice is heard, they're more likely going to listen to it. But the moment I impose and say, ye kya baat hui, niklo, maine bola, there is no chance that this is going to work, right? So one of the things that we have done as our go-to strategy is co-create. We say, we're having a situation, we're not deciding, let's do this together. So we invite them in, we make sure that they be iterated, we give them the respect to say your voice is heard, but there'll be times when it is getting unreasonable. At those times, I invite the parents and say, listen, like I'll tell you, dress code. Ek badi baat hui thi, dress code Riverside mein. Can be whatever. I said, listen, dress is not my priority, it is your parents. If they're okay with you wearing this, mere ko kya hai? So I invited parents and parents said, bilkul nahi. I said, theek hai, mera problem nahi hai. So you have to be strategic. Kahan pe parents ka voice aayega, kahan pe alumni aayenge, because alumni will have ideas about what they've done at college, etc. It's beautiful. Step out of imposing and do invitation. So we impose too much. We say, I know I'm this thing. So if you convert the word from imposition to invitation and invite the voice in, you're more likely going to have a situation where there's not this constant friction and tussle. Then they're more likely to say, we created this together. You know, so that's possibly a strategy. We use this a lot, sir, and I would recommend, do try that.
Sure. Thank you very much for addressing my concern, though I'm doing all these things. But by your support, you made me so clear about all my plans. Thank you all, IPN. Thank you, Gaurav. And
thank you, everybody.
Again, thank you very much.
Lovely to have met you all. I hope this has been useful. Please.
Madam, can I have one question, please?
Sagar, I have to leave right now.
Just one question, please, if you allow. May I, madam?
Anji, quickly.
Yeah. My question is about that I have been working in this field from last 15 years. So being very passionate, I used to be with 100% results all year. Okay, now. But the thing is that sometimes I feel that sort of depression, sometimes I feel that sort of overburden. Just the trustees put on me that Sagar, we need 100% result each and every year. But as far as a school principal, you are a owner, you are some sort of the high level of educationist, and you can say, or I must insist for that sort of advice from you, that how I could manage that sort of depression, that sort of stress. That each and every year, it is not possible for me to give 100% result. Okay, now that first thing is what. But when you have given, I have given that sort of in a continuous row, but it is not, because every time I don't have that sort of student, I don't have that sort of resources, I don't have that sort of teachers as well. So each and every time it is not possible for me to manage all those things. So are you getting my point?
Sagar, the only thing I can do is come and sit next to you and we both can cry together. I don't have an answer for this, my friend. This is not something I can possibly give you a satisfactory answer for. Yeah. All right. But I'm giving you so much of strength, and I keep wishing well for you. Yeah.
You.
Don't lose that smile. You've got a lovely smile, so make sure that you keep that smile. Yeah. All right, everybody. Thank you so much.
So
Gaurav,
yes,
thank you.
Thank you.
We
Thank
all
you,
are
ma'am.
absolutely wordless. I will say 1 hour was way too less, number one. But having said this, lovely meeting you. I'm sure your energy is contagious. I'm sure, I mean, everybody is here either laughing or they're saying something which is very, very hilarious to me, honestly. So I loved it. And I'm sure everybody who's part of this conversation loved this conversation of yours. We look forward to coming to Riverside. That is our plan. And I may sound a little selfish. We will keep calling you very regularly. Thank you very much for your time.
Not only to Riverside, sir.
Thank you, ma'am.
Gaurav, sir, not only to Riverside, but to Kulu Manali also.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye. God bless.
Thank you, ma'am.
Take care.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you all.
Thank you, ma'am. Thanks a lot.